Welcome to CT Expert Insights. When your business needs people it can trust, you can count on us. We dedicate ourselves to getting to know your needs and finding solutions to meet them. You'll have a team of experts backing you up.
Hi, I'm Greg Corombos. Our guest this week on Expert Insights is Mike Enright, Service Manager at BizFilings. As long as there have been businesses, there have been thieves trying to take advantage of them. And as technology has advanced, which makes our life easier in many ways, methods of cheating and fleecing people have kept pace, making it more difficult than ever for business owners to outsmart those targeting their companies. Some scams have been around for many years, and others are on the cutting edge of this emerging technology. So it's critical to make sure your employees are familiar with these different strategies to lessen your chances of becoming a victim, personally or as a business. And Mike, thanks so much for being with us.
It's great to be with you. Thanks, Greg.
Well, there are a lot of different areas we hear about scams. It seems like the elderly, for example, are always targeted for scams. We see scams right in the wake or in the preparation of an impending hurricane sometimes. A lot of scams popped up during the early days of the coronavirus pandemic. But one we constantly hear about involves businesses, and especially smaller businesses, which might not have the same vetting capability as larger ones. And so you work a lot with entrepreneurs and startups. So why is this group more susceptible to scams?
Yeah, so in general, what these scammers look for is vulnerabilities, and you just outlined some examples of that and opportunities to take advantage of that. And they know that starting and running a small business is challenging from start to finish. They know that when you're in the startup phase of a small business, things are hectic, and those starting the business may not be clear on what needs to be done, and that hectic feeling tends to kind of go through the entire life cycle of the business up until, even if they have to wind up the business. So it's kind of that stress and the unknown that they tend to prey on. And I know from experience that small business owners have a lot of questions. They're often looking for advice. And, if someone approaches willing to offer that advice, maybe not on the best of terms, they can find themselves vulnerable to some of these scams.
I assume there's a lot of scams out there. We talked about how some are old and some are new. What are the most common ones right now?
There's a few things that we see with small businesses in particular. Probably the most common scam we see are solicitations and mailings that go to customers that appear to come from state agencies or local agencies, but they're actually from another third party. So, for example, they may offer to file an annual report for you. And by taking them up on that offer and paying the fees, you may be, just as simple as paying them much, much more than the state would charge to do those types of filings. And we've seen that actually as high as 20 times higher than the fee that the state would charge. With those filings that you fill out, you may at some point also be providing them with information about your company that they can use for other purposes. You may actually be signing off on a document that changes information about your company. For example, changes the address or changes the principals involved with the company, which then allows a scammer to become, essentially a part of your business and sign off on documents and open up lines of credit, things like that. That leads me to the next one that we see a lot of, and that's corporate identity theft. And this can happen in a couple of different ways. We see things like phishing and ransomware, things that we see, even just from personal identity theft. We see offers from entities that offer to file your meeting minutes, which is a document that in every state across the country is really an internal document that you don't need to file with anyone, but they'll offer to take your meeting minutes and file them with this unnamed government agency that doesn't actually exist and charge you a fee to do that. With the corporate identity theft, one thing that we see is scammers will look for entities that are not in good standing, and they will actually seek out to pay the fees to bring them back into good standing, and therefore kind of take control of the company and then, can open up lines of credit underneath those entities and take advantage of business owners in that way. So it's important to keep your entity in good standing and also just monitor the status of the company with the state.
We're talking with Mike Enright of BizFilings. And Mike, some scams can be more damaging than others, but in general, what is the impact of these scams on business owners and their businesses?
So the biggest one is the cost. If you were to, as I mentioned before, receive an offer to file an annual report on behalf of your company and pay for it, you're going to be out more money than you should be. So there's the simple just cost of filing a document that you wouldn't necessarily have to. But also, as I mentioned, sometimes information can be changed if you do respond to some of these scams, which can allow others to sign documents on behalf of your company. And also, it could force any important documents coming from the state to go to other places. So, for example, if you fill out one of these bogus annual reports and it ends up changing your registered agent, you would not receive important documents coming from the state. It would actually go to somebody else and they could assume control over those documents. There's also, as I mentioned before, some of the normal scams that we see out there where bank accounts can be opened in the name of a company, lines of credit can be opened in the name of the company, which then can allow others to do business under your company name, which obviously creates a lot of issues.
So given all the potential scams out there, Mike, what are the best ways for business owners to stay on top of it and to smell a rat, essentially? What can they do to prevent themselves from becoming victims?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is really just being tech savvy and utilizing some of the best practices we have out there to protect your own personal identity. So, things like being careful about opening emails and clicking on links that are directed to either you or your business. That's a big one. But, drilling down to small businesses, I think it's important if you receive solicitations or documents from the state, make sure you read the fine print. A lot of these solicitations that come out will indicate that they're not associated with a state agency. You'll want to just make sure that if you receive something that looks a little fishy, go to the state website, go to the local website, or even give them a call to ensure that this is legitimate. It's also really important as a small business owner just to familiarize yourself with what's due for your company. In the example of annual reports, they're typically due at the same time every year, the same month. Just make sure that you know what to expect and know when something would be coming. And if you have questions, call an expert. You can call the state, you can call a trusted registered agent, and they can walk you through what's required. So, I think it's really just a matter of staying organized, making sure you know what to expect, and knowing the due dates and what the fees are as you're starting a business. It's hard to get out in front of every single permit or license that you'll have to obtain, but you can expect to pay the same thing every year. Yes, fees can go up, but as long as you know what to expect, what things should look like, you can avoid some of these scams.
Mike, I know I've seen this with respect to the IRS. I assume it's true of other government agencies, whether it's at the state or local level, but often they'll say, if we're contacting you, we're going to do it this way. We're not going to email you, or we're not going to do it some other way. And that can help you perhaps sift through this as well, right?
Yeah, that's really a good point. And that's changed a little bit, or some county offices, some state offices have changed their method of contact just with COVID going on. But for the most part, you should know when things are going to come out, and they have a certain look to them. You familiarize yourself with what documents coming from your county office or your state office look like. They kind of have their own look and feel to the envelopes and the notices that you're going to see. We deal with these notices from all 50 states, and we kind of know what they should look like. So that's something to be familiarized yourself with as well.
All right, last thoughts, Mike. What other advice should business owners keep in mind? Like you said, there's a million things going on in their head as they're trying to get their business off the ground, or just keep it going in this type of business environment. And obviously they're looking to grow it. And so keeping an eye out for scams might not be first of mind, but what other advice do you have for them today?
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, this is not an issue that's going away. We're seeing a bit more of it now during these COVID times, but this is something that's been around for quite some time. The one piece of advice that I give folks if this does come up is that if they notice something on file with the state that is incorrect, request a certified copy of that document with the incorrect information, just so you have it on file, you have it in your possession, and you can prove that, something was filed with the state that I didn't do. And you'll want to do that before you try to undo any changes. I think it's also just important to be cautious on who you hire to help. It's certainly okay to hire somebody to help you and hire a third party to file documents to help you stay in compliance. The important thing is it's somebody that you trust, and it's someone that adds value to the process. So, we file annual reports on behalf of our customers, but, the basis of doing that is to, first off, remind them on when it's coming due. And we also keep things on file, so you always have a copy of that annual report, and you can access it at any time. And I think lastly, just consider using a trusted registered agent that can protect some of the information that's made public. The registered agent address is what's of public record in most states, and that can help shield you personally from, your home address being listed out there for the public. The other good thing about using a trusted registered agent is that you can ask them questions about that particular state, and they'll know what to expect, and they can point out and pretty quickly recognize scams and things that don't look legitimate. State offices typically post information on their websites. Depending on the states, you can check there, but having a trusted registered agent or a trusted advisor in that jurisdiction can definitely help as well.
And that's something BizFilings does, correct?
It absolutely, yeah. So we offer registered agent services in all 50 states, and I know that our team takes calls almost every day, just questioning, hey, I got this document. What do I do with this? And there are times where we say, hey, you know what? It looks like that might be a scam. Throw it in the trash.
Do you need to report it if you get one and you sniff it out?
That's a good question. You can, and I think states often are aware of these types of scams. As I mentioned, they post them on their website, and you'll see a list of recent scams that have gone out. I don't think that you would want to assume that this has or hasn't been reported. So, you can certainly let your local state office know, and if they weren't aware of it, they may ask for more information. So that's a great point.
Excellent advice, Mike. And hopefully folks are much wiser to what they're seeing, whether it's in their inbox, their mailbox, or any other way that they're communicating with the outside world right now. Thanks very much for your insights. Really good stuff.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Mike Enright is Service Manager at BizFilings. I'm Greg Columbus, and for more information on this subject, please call CT at 844-787-7782.
With 125 years of experience, CT is here to help you at every stage of the business life cycle.